I think if I had to live with a guy, Arthur's character is probably easier to live with because
he's not trying to poison people half the time. You're listening to The Juniper and Elle Show, where two friends chat dramas, movies, and whatever else we're checking out at the moment. Grab a tea or other beverage of choice and come hang out with us as we chat, laugh, and occasionally make sense. Hi, this is Juniper.
Hello, this is Elle.
Welcome to our pod. And today we're going to talk about two new C-dramas, Chinese dramas, that's what that means, that we happen to be chasing at the same time. For me, Juniper, I'm thoroughly enjoying both, though they're not quite what I expected from before I went into it based on the trailers. And Elle, you're also watching both I think I am probably like around episode anywhere from 14 to 17 on each. And you're way ahead on one versus the other, right?
Yep.
So actually, what are the two shows? I've said a lot about nothing so far. The first show is a love story in the 1970s starring Arthur Chen Feiyu, and Sun Qian. The title in English tells it all, right? It's a story set in 1975 China. So it's around the time of the Cultural Revolution. And the other show we're both checking out right now is called Generation to Generation, which is a very different kind of show. It's a wuxia, not a xianxia, a wuxia, right? Martial arts type of world populated by many sects and different people. And then it's a very young cast too. And it stars Zhou Yiran and Bao Shangen. So fairly new actors, at least new to us. I haven't really watched either, though they've been around at least a few years now. So I'll give a synopsis, and then Elle, you can kind of talk about how you got into it. So on Love Story in the 1970s, it is a story about Fei Ni, the Sun Qian's character, the female lead, who is a smart but poor girl in 1970s China who aspires to go to college but is repeatedly thwarted by the scheming and politics at her factory that she works at. She ends up taking care of injured and amnesiac childhood classmate Fang Muyang, who is played by Arthur Chen, in another bid to earn a spot to college after he is hurt saving people during a storm. And this is really the story about their reunion because they were childhood classmates and paths together, and the people in their orbit as they kind of find their way to the aspirations of their life. But really, it's her life, because I'm not sure up to this point what his aspirations are other than to be with her.
Right.
Which is a good, noble aspiration. So that's the first story. The second story, Generation to Generation, is a very traditional wuxia story, at least in my book. And it's about our heroine, Cai Zhao, who is played by Bao Shangen. Cai Zhao is an independent, lazy, I would say, and spunky young martial artist from a noble sect or righteous sect who goes out to study under an allied righteous sect and meets Changning, the supposed survivor of a clan massacre, who is not who he says he is. That's our male lead, played by Zhou Yiran. Changning turns out to be the scion of a demonic sect, or, non-righteous sect. So it's kind of the opponents, right, to the righteous side, which is a very common theme in these wuxia stories. She quickly catches on, suspects him, but also protects him and aids him in his quest for revenge and taking back what is his. And we as the audience are taken along as they grow closer together and go on adventures. And, there's romance, though, as far as I've gotten, which is episode 17. It's mainly him being an unshakable presence in her life because he won't let her go. Family secrets and older generation stories or histories are uncovered and underlie the happenings in the story. And I think that's why the English title for this is called Generation to Generation. All right. That was a lot of summarizing. Elle,
yes.
I kind of said, go watch these. And you did.
Yeah, I did. So I started with Love Story in the 1970s. So I don't watch trailers, but based on the picture, I was like, ugh. I actually was not really looking forward to it because I was like,
yep.
How exciting can the China in the 1970s be? Knowing what we know from a historical perspective, right? With my limited knowledge of it, I'm like, But when you start it and you're watching it from the perspective of the female lead, it is quite engaging in terms of pulling you into that that society that she lives in and feeling sort of her helplessness. She's not a damsel, but she is in a situation where she, like you mentioned, she really, really wants to go to college. And at that time, education is not really, it's celebrated, but it's also very limited. Like not everybody can go. You have to meet certain criteria before somebody will vouch for you. And it's and for her, she doesn't have the ulterior motives to go to college. She just loves to study. She has aspirations. She's hoping to sort of leave this life that her parents are stuck in. Like she doesn't want to be like her parents and settle in this area working in this factory for the next 45 years of her life. So when you're watching it, you really feel her helplessness, but you want to see if she can get out of it. And I think that's the big hook before we even talk about the romance, which is interesting because Arthur Chen's character, he comes, as I view it, he comes in the form of as an ally, right? He's there to support her aspirations, and he doesn't ask much of her other than he just wants to be in her company, and he's very, very content with that. And it's very cute to watch. They're a very charming couple. And yeah, so like aside from the setting they're in, which, we could either go into or not, it's not a setting you would think, oh, I want to watch a cute romance, but it is done in a way where regardless of this very strict sort of environment they're set in, they kind of defy it by finding their little pockets of fun, right? They have to create that for themselves because a lot of things are like, you're not allowed to do any of this. So they have to find ways to have fun and enjoy each other and work around things so that they can make her dream come true. So I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, so I think you hit up on like the first thing that I felt when I watched this was just neither of us knew this was coming, right? Really not typically my cup of tea, that era, anything that's like set in that era, just like Republican dramas. Like you kind of go in expecting it to be, I don't know, not what it is, right? That's why I said it was like kind of like, oh, neither shows turned out that way, because usually shows set in that era, right? Cultural Revolution, even if it's a tail end, it's like a heavier drama. The intricacies of a hardship of the life back in the days, What this was is a sweet romance, like really, really romanticized, quaint little vignettes of life, right? And you're just like, this is not what I expected. Now, even the OST, the theme song, the intro to each episode is like that. Like the song is not that Chinese. Come on, it sounds like a French OST, right? Like, what you expect when you see Views of Paris, or what did I say? This is like an Amelie type of feeling. Yeah. Very whimsical. And that's the mood you get when you watch this show, right? Like, sure, there's a lot of like bureaucratic obtuseness she has to overcome, a lot of backstabbing and politics, right? Because she's a very kind of you see what you get, what you see is what you get type of girl, right? Straight shooter and very like good person. So she's not going to try to bend the rules and backstab other people, but she feels like, I deserve to go to college. How come I can't get there? And all of these other people and circumstances thwart her. So it is nice to see how the show is really, as far as we've gotten, about her navigating that journey with the help, as you say. I love the choice of words you said, ally, right? In the form of our male lead. So I do wonder, is it the romance? Is it them that makes you like the show? Not you, but us, right? Or is it the nostalgia? Not that either of us grew up in that era. We were born a few years after, right? That era. And you weren't even born in that region. I was. So I do wonder, right? Because like when I watch the show, I do a lot of spotting of, oh, I've seen that before. Oh, I know what they're talking about. So let's transition to that, the viewing experience with our different backgrounds. So you and I both technically are Chinese in that sense, like in that we were born in different parts of China or what is now China. And for me, this is pretty, even though I didn't grow up in that era, I'm familiar enough to navigate what they're talking about. I do wonder for you, right? Was any of this like, wow, what are they talking about? How foreign is this? And why is it that way?
I was surprised by I mean, I guess I never, my parents never really spoke about it, but I know that they went through some sort of re-education, and that they hint at that in this drama, but they don't go into it, like what it entailed. I mean, they imply like, oh, once they come back, they can do this. So it's a very polished version. Like it definitely does not show you the hardships of what re-education actually means. And, as far as I know, it might still be happening today. But back then, 40, 50 years ago, the re-education part of it definitely broke apart a lot of families. And I think it was interesting because when I was watching this, I'm like, oh, they don't kind of hide that fact that families are kind of torn apart, or that families have been put into different class systems. And so it was interesting because I wonder how much the audience, even people in China, are aware of. I'm sure they've heard things from their families, but to watch it. So for me, when I'm watching it, there's definitely things I did not know existed, right? Like the whole ticketing, couponing. I mean, they get paid so little that they can never really break out from where they are. And and my understanding has always been like, oh, communism is sort of like a type of socialism, like everyone's equal, but really it's not. No, people are not equal here. There are hierarchies built into it, and it's designed to suppress certain individuals for whatever reason. And in this drama, that's a part of the heavy conflict, right? Which is like favoritism. The female lead is, for whatever reason, not favored by the people who have control over how her life, what trajectory her life will take. So when you're watching this, it's kind of, it was eye-opening if I consider myself a foreigner, right? Like not having been exposed to this information growing up. So when you're watching it, like there's certain things like props that I recognize, like the little red pins they all wear. Like I've seen that in my parents' stuff, like, but I never knew what it was. I still don't really know what it means. Other than it being a prop on TV, I'm like, oh, why do they all wear the red pin?
Well, it's a symbol of your affiliation, support for the party or whatever the party line. Like when I went to school in China in elementary school, I don't know if you knew that back in the day. At least I'm sure it's no longer the case. We all had to wear like the red tie kerchief around your neck.
Yeah, I've seen those. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if you didn't have it, you have to go home and get it. That's part of your uniform. And then you were assigned, once you get higher enough, you were assigned like ranks. If you're a leader model student, you get like 小队长, 中队长, 大队长, small, medium, large. But basically rank 1, rank 2, rank 3 type of like captains of your class. Like I was a 中队长based on my grades and stuff. And you had to wear that badge. So yes, so it's funny what you said. You say, oh, I thought socialism is all about equality. No, it is not. It is bureaucracy and hierarchy.
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting. That's why I was like, when you told me to watch it, I'm like, ugh. And you were like, oh, it's really cute. I'm like, what? Surprisingly
so, right? That's what I'm saying. It's not what I expected. I thought I would not last like 2 episodes. And I was like, oh, this is not. So it definitely I would not watch this with any realism in mind, to your point. I mean, I can't vouch for how real or not real, but I'm pretty sure this is not how Sweet Life was. That said, the way the Chinese title for the show is called, it's called 纯真年代的爱情, which is love in the innocent days. So I think they are going for that. And, one of our other friends who was watching this was like, oh, how did this pass censorship? Meaning it's depicting all of the bureaucracy and obtuseness of communistic life. But I think, again, I don't know, right? But I think maybe one is it paints it in a very, very generous, warm light in some ways. All the harshness is like reduced, right? Blunted.
Yes.
And it's transformed and rechanneled into something much more positive and, warm and fuzzy when you watch it. And 2, I think it's maybe, again, I have no grounds to have this presumption based on anything other than presumption, which is it is part of the end days of the Cultural Revolution. And officially, I believe, the Chinese government has said that the Cultural Revolution was a mistake because it caused so much suffering.
Interesting.
Anyways, so I think don't watch it for realism in that sense, though. I would say that I do appreciate part of the enjoyment for me watching the show is how they live their lives, the intricacies, right? Like the things they have to do, right? Like when you shower, there's no showering. You gotta go to, like, in episode 1, he hides because he has no place to stay in a public bath. Have you ever been to one of them? I have, because they used to have them in China. Because people didn't have convenience is like, you don't have bathrooms in your home necessarily. I mean, we did, but everyone could go to a public bath if you needed that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Romans and their public baths, right? Like the poorest people could go to public baths and hang out there for, very little money, and the whole like working at the factory and getting your meals, right? You get meal tickets, you get meals from the factory. Like you're living off of the factory. But so having a job is kind of like being in the good graces of the system, and then through that, getting the support to get a good job and housing is kind of how life was. It's the allotment system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And how you go buy stuff, right? Like everything is like you go to their version of Macy's, which is not a Macy's at all. Right? Like I gotta get this, I gotta get that, right? Like it's interesting just to see how they have to traverse life and the things they do or can't do, and the instruments and tools they use, right? How things were done physically and mentally.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, and also this is probably the last decade before you sort of switch to the digital age, early digital age. So, for them, a TV is still like a new thing, right? They don't even have computers yet at this time. And yeah, I mean, look, if you're watching it from that perspective of like, there's a time where you can have a sweet romance in the sort of analog era, this is an interesting setup to do it in. And obviously, because it is so this is, I believe, based on a web novel, and I haven't read it yet, but I do find it interesting that because you're sitting from the female perspective of her, if it was written from his perspective, right now, the only thing is you really, really still don't know too much about what he went through, right? He hasn't, I don't know if he will like explain like what hardships he's gone through, because he went away after his parents got re-educated, and then he comes back being like jack of all trades, right? He can like he knows carpentry. He's an artist. He can apparently build a TV with scrap electronic components. Like he can do anything. And so you're like, who is he? Like, what did he? What was his life before he came back? And so I think that kind of keeps me coming too, because we know her story. We know what she needs to vanquish, but like, does he have demons? Like, what is his deal? So there's pieces of that I'm interested in. I'm hoping that they will reveal later on.
I think he has demons, right? Based on what the snippets they've shown of his family's belongings being taken away, and he can no longer live there because his parents got sent down, and then his grandma died, and then so I think he's learned to kind of get by on life the way with his smarts, street smarts, if you will. But they're very helpful, at least for the female lead, because God, without him, she'd be like at a loss, right? She'd be like a bull in a china shop trying to like get her way. So, but it's interesting, right? So one of the things we had talked about before we started recording this episode was also, just watching this, right? Does this, assuming, even if it's super romanticized through rose-colored lenses, right? Assuming some of the underlying core themes of how life was back in the day was true, because, it is very much about utilitarianism. How do you get by, right? Does it shape the way you see the older generation of Chinese people, like in China, and maybe some of the cultural aspects of China we see on some of the dramas, right? Or from even people we know around us who are more like from mainland China. Because here's the thing, I had said the show's Chinese title is about love in the innocent days, but it's based on a novel that actually is called 实用主义者的爱情, which translates to a pragmatist's love. Changes the tune of the story, which actually fits if you think about all of the things that everyone does, motivations and objective.
I mean, it probably aligns more closely to the second couple in the drama, which we didn't talk about, being his older sister and her, well, spoiler, husband, right? So I think, yeah, I mean, even with the main couple, it is from a pragmatist's view, because they kind of married for convenience, right? Like,
well, for
she
her,
called it for her, she called it a fake marriage, but he's like, oh, wait, this is great. Like I
I
get
get
to
wifey.
be with the I get my wifey and I'll just slowly romance her. Like, I got all the time in the world, right? We're not gonna get divorced. So it is the premise here is also interesting in the sense of they you have two married couples in what you would deem a loveless marriage. I mean, they're not married to each other where they don't like each other, but it's definitely not romantic. It wasn't due to like pure romance or I love you and I want to marry you. So you're actually watching two married couples trying to discover if they can be in love with each other for real versus using each other for ulterior motives.
This is the marry first, love later theme trope,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
very common, I think, in the Chinese drama.
Well, it's like the last short drama that we talked about.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Yes.
Except that the angst there was a little different, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
so I'm sure we'll both keep watching. I definitely get very nostalgic when watching the show because, I told you offline, right? All of his favorite foods are like schnitzel and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's what I grew up like when I was a kid. I love that stuff. And the Chinese versions of those like foreign foods, like Western foods, are actually in my mind better than the original sometimes. And it's really hard to find those type of foods now. At least last time when I went back to Shanghai, and that was a long time ago, like 9 years ago. I couldn't really find it. I think there was like one restaurant that was still like considered like old school Shanghai Western food.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. I hope some foodie brings it back. Like, there's such a big restaurant scene in Shanghai. I'm surprised that no one said, "Oh, this is the old school Western type of food." That would have been cool.
Yeah. So I think. Oh, actually, before we transition to the other show, I quickly talk about the acting, right? So my take is this: I like both leads. I think it's very well casted. Though ultimately, I think I like the female lead Sun Qian a lot. And I had to look her up because I was like, oh, she seems very familiar, but I don't think I've ever watched her in anything. But it turns out she was the fiance of Dao Mingsi in the Dylan Wang version of Meteor Garden. And I was so surprised that she came from like that to this. But overall, the whole show I think is very well cast and it's really an ensemble show, right? You might want to watch it mainly for the main couple and the progression of their love. I can't even say that that's why I'm watching it. I want to see how everything, like just how they keep living their life and hopefully good things come to the good people and bad things come to the bad people. That's what I'm watching it for.
Yeah, the other characters, all very interesting. Like her best friend with her brother, I thought were interesting. Yep. Her parents, they're so cute. Like, they're like so cute. You're like, just trying to like, celebrate the little wedding anniversary. Like, definitely the other characters are all also very cute. But again, this is like feeding into the romance of that era, right? Like, oh, despite all this, the situation, the confines of the situation they're living in, like everyone is in their own little like romantic bubble. But yeah, I agree that when you're watching it, it's not just about the main leads. Like the other characters also have their little spotlights on them, and they're all very well acted.
Yeah, it's super charming, super romantic. Though I would say that in my mind, the romantic thing is not that it's heterosexual romance. It's actually the romanticism of living life that you're watching. That's what they've romanticized. So if you like that kind of romance, don't be put off by the era this is set in. It's probably nothing like there's no harsh realities here. I mean, there is, but it's so blunted and softened and, padded for you. It's okay. You'll have a soft landing. So
I like how Arthur Chen, they made him like tanned in the beginning, where you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of how men would have looked right after they worked in the fields or whatever. And then because he's been in a coma for like 3 months, she's like, wow, you lightened up so much. She actually said that. And then he's back to his like, modern, like fair skin look.
But, one thing I'll have to say though, he looks a little bit too muscular, or at least healthy for that era. Like, I think they were a little bit skinnier and more malnourished. Yeah. I was like, he looks like he's had a burger.
No, he's like asking for very expensive foods, and she's like, I can't afford that. Like, she's digging into her savings to feed him, like you said, pork cutlet and ice cream, which was like very decadent back in the days. So,
yeah. Well, she got a
Yeah.
good bargain out of it eventually with the fake marriage. So
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all right, switching gears then, really briefly, probably have a little bit less to talk about on generation to generation, just because you told me right beforehand that you only got up to the episode 6.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm on 17, so there's a chasm between where we are. So I already gave the synopsis, so maybe just talk about in general your feels or reactions as you have watched only 6 episodes.
So I would say and you had said that other people felt this, that it's very fast paced, and I would agree. I think for 6 episodes, there's a lot of storytelling, and if you don't pay attention, you're going to lose track because there's a lot of characters that they introduce very quickly, and sometimes they're on camera, and sometimes they're just names that they mention. But I would say not. So this is my first time watching these 2 leads, and they're very young, but they're quite charismatic on screen. I like them in terms of like the female lead is not what I expected. She's very different from other wuxia leads for me in terms of like she's not like a righteous person like that's in your face. Sometimes that can like be a turnoff, but she's actually just like you said, she's kind of a lazy person. She doesn't want to be in this, but she's skilled enough. She's been trained that she can participate if she must to fight against, these other martial artists. And I like that her sense of righteousness is more born from a sense of loyalty. It's not because she represents something or she has to uphold something. And so when she meets the male lead and everybody is like not trusting of this guy, like her loyalty to him is very similar to the first drama we just talked about, right? There's an ally relationship where they're like, I'll support you even though you're not being completely honest with me. Like I can tell because of these other things that have happened that you're worth supporting. And when the time comes and you want to tell me who you really are, then, I'm open to that. And I like her feisty spirit. And so that's kind of what pulled me in, where I'm like, all right, I'm engaged enough to like kind of want to know what's going to happen next. And that's in the 6th episode. So you're much further, so you can tell me if things have evolved or changed.
Yeah, so I think you came away with the first 6 episodes saying this is actually more of a mystery than
like a whodunit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say that's true in the first 6. I mean, mysteries and wuxia are very have many things kind of overlapping typically in other genres of wuxia, right? Because you're always trying to figure out family secrets, who hid what where, or go on a treasure hunt. So in that sense, right? Where I am on 17, it's still very much an adventure, type of. They've now moved beyond just the sect itself. It's kind of ping-ponging back and forth. I mean, there was a map, right? They're like, there'd be arrows like Indiana Jones, going here, there, back, and they have their personal airplane in a bird. So, this. So you say it's not what you expected. It's not what I expected. I don't know what I expected, but from the trailer, which I saw this, I think a year ago, I wanted to watch this because they did the trailers in such a way that it was like it pulled you in, right? Like so mysterious and pretty young things. And it looked like it was going to be like this hot and heavy, passionate, desperate, toxic love. I wouldn't say that it turned out that way at all. I mean, they're pretty young things. There's nothing toxic so far. I mean, I actually find it really funny to watch because the male lead is a green tea, right? We had talked about this briefly. He is very manipulative. He's up to something. And he obviously likes the girl, so he's going to keep sticking to her like scotch tape, right? Or whatever. So I think he wants her to realize that she likes him, but if she doesn't, he's okay. He'll just make do and somehow make it happen.
He'll get her one day.
He's Velcro.
Somehow.
Yeah, he's Velcro. He will. So I think that's why I said it's not that toxic and like, yearning, at least not where we are. Maybe later when it gets really serious, it'll get to that people spewing blood type of thing. But this is not Xianxia, this is wuxia. I would say though that I'm pleasantly surprised by how much this reminds me of the old wuxia stories I used to like to watch. And of course they have elements of it that's very evocative of like classics like Return of the Condor Heroes or just Condor Heroes. Like her character, one of our other friends who's watching this, was saying, she reminds me of Wang Rong from the Condor Heroes, who's this like street smart, very smart, pretty woman who does her thing and can outsmart the bad guys. And that's the impression I get with our female lead. Mm-hmm. Independent, capable, smart, does whatever she wants, and very pretty.
Yeah.
Maybe not the most emotive person, at least not outwardly, but has a kind heart and does the right thing, right? And will help a friend out in need. He reminds me a little bit of the male side of the Condor Hero sagas, like the did you ever watch the Michael Mel version of the like 1983
It
or
would have been
82
a
TVB?
long time ago.
Yeah, so he was kind of the evil, the villain, but he was kind of like gray character. And then his son, who was Andy Lau, was the hero in the sequel, The Return of the Condor Heroes, Yang Guo and Zhou Wei.
Okay.
So the male lead character here reminds me of Yang Guo a little bit in that he is viewed as kind of evil because he's a son of someone who was bad and against the Jianghu, but he's very devoted to the woman he loves. Like, and he will do whatever it takes to be with her. Like, that's it. Like, he will focus on that, and he's very powerful. But at the same time, he has agenda for revenge and righting the wrongs of what he sees as of the past, and then meeting people along the way. And then all of their like brothers and sisters, not real like martial brothers and sisters, remind me of like those type of characters in that type of story. You could call them riffraff, you can call them like friends, depending on how much exposure they get in the story. So I like that it surprised me in that it evoked that feeling of, oh, hey, this is like watching classic wuxia in some ways, but with the young, pretty cast and, you know, fast pacing and probably better effects.
No, and the scenery is beautiful, by the way. The props and the setup, the production is very beautiful to look at in this drama. Yeah, I would say when I watched the male lead, he gave me like a bit of a Wang Shui, what's his name?
Wang Xingyue.
Yeah, Wang Xingyue. Like he gave me that feel. He doesn't really look like him, but he gave me a little bit of that mysterious feel, at least in the beginning. But I'm looking forward, even though I'm only 6 episodes in, I'm looking forward to seeing like what you call like the guy who's like more open now, because now he's honest, right? Like, so spoiler, he reveals who he is to her. So now she has to deal with him in a different way, whereas before she is like, oh, I'm your friend, and now it's like, oh my god, you're my enemy. So that'll be interesting for me to get into. But yeah, I think as a wuxia, it's not as male because it's very female driven. It doesn't have sort of that maleness. You know, like Blood River was kind of like male, like testosterone driven storyline. Like this one, it's more balanced. And actually, I had to say, for a lot of the female actresses or female characters, I love how gallant they are. Like they're very brave in some ways of how, you know, like there's snippets of other stories, right? Because generation to generation, so they're flashing back a lot to previous generations and their stories. It's not to the forefront, but it feeds into the present storyline. And so when they show the other females, like they're very courageous, and they're none of them are damsels, you know, when you're watching it. And I really like that. I like the balance in this drama for the sort of the both genders, if you will.
Yeah. It's funny you brought up Blood River, because I know a lot of people love Blood River, not Blood River itself, but the Blood of Youth, right? Related IP. And I thought Blood of Youth was okay, but I was like, oh, it's kind of like pedantic and by the numbers, like fast paced, but so what, right? Like it's almost hard to follow who's who, right? And I know people complain that the editing in this show is choppy and that there are too many characters. You can't tell what's going on and who's who. I'm like, I had no issues at all. Now, you do have to watch this with attention. You can't just be like, let's gloss over this, because then you will miss the context. A lot of the context, editing is fast and scenes do change, but the context is very much given to you in the passing dialogue. Like, hey, you know, 3 weeks ago we did this when we were at so-and-so. It's like, okay, now you've already set the scene. But if you weren't paying attention, you missed that. And I would say that some tips for watching this, if you're not used to wuxia, okay, there are a lot of characters in any standard fare wuxia. Even think about, I said, Word of Honor. There were a lot of people in Word of Honor. Because you're going on an adventure. You're out there traveling the world, meeting people, fighting people, or allying with them. Those are usually the two types, okay? There's always some hidden motive, grudge behind everyone that shows up, even if it's for 2 seconds, or some history behind them that then propels momentum forward. Older generations always have their story to tell in the wuxia, okay? And then people fight each other all the time. That's like, don't overthink and think, oh, it's not always like linear and focused storytelling. If you're used to xianxia, which is not wuxia at all, then you will be very confused watching wuxia because xianxia is almost like the other way. 200% focus on the two main characters, maybe with the third wheel, like try to solve conflict, like through three lifetimes. That's xianxia, okay? So if you're used to watching that just because everyone's in costume, then wuxia is going to be confusing as heck. Don't try to figure out 100% of what's going on. It will become very clear and explained later. There'll be setup or hints. And it's not always about the romance, but romance is always a strong undercurrent. Like, have you noticed, even up to episode 6, everyone loves someone else dearly and passionately, and it's usually like with forlorning. Sorry, forlonging. Forlonging, is that the word?
Forlorn. Yeah.
Forlorn, yeah. With longing and forlorn. Sorry, I can't speak English today, but you know what I mean, right? It's that deep entrenched, like you are the one. So I haven't gotten there yet. You haven't gotten there for sure. But Li Yunrui, you know who that is, right? The guy from Yummy Yummy Yummy.
Why does that
Yummy
sound
Yummy
familiar?
Yummy.
Oh yeah, male lead. Yeah.
Yeah. So he has a cameo in the show because he's gonna play. He's already showed up where I am. He plays 2 people, I believe, if I'm correct on my intel that I've seen. He plays twins. He is the older generation. So he is the father of a male lead. Okay?
Oh.
But he also has a twin brother. And I believe the twin brother, had a tragic love story with the aunt who died. And I think she killed him. So that is very standard wuxia fare, by the way, okay? Like, we love each other, we must kill each other now. Like, we cannot be together. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I do look forward to seeing how that gets played out because they do play flashbacks, right, of the older generation.
Yes. Constant flashbacks. I was telling you. I was like, not in a bad way. I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just compared to wuxia I've watched like growing up on TVB, and I was telling you, like, I'll find like they don't film flashbacks. They just explain what happened. And you're like, okay, you have to conjure it in your mind because they probably didn't have the budget. But here, there's a lot of flashbacks. You know, you have to keep track of the actors who play the young version. Sometimes they use the same people if they can, put makeup on them. But if not, it's like a different person. And so you have to keep track because it does matter, like with all the present day conflict, because I think some of those scars are being carried down to the next generation. And so, but I guess it's important that his dad got like a leading man to play him, like that signifies something, right, with the story. So
it could be, or because they just needed some big names in there. And I think the director directed the sequel to The Princess Agents, which stars Li Yingwei, which is coming out soon on Tencent too. So maybe that could be like a favor type of crossover. Who knows?
Yeah. Interesting.
So, hey, that kind of, I do see a resemblance between Li Yunrui and the male lead. Like they both have like that kind of foxy look to their faces. So, and the foxy eyes. So watch this with an open mind. Do not overthink the plot because there's a lot of plotting. Oh, one thing I would say that cast, right? Because we did talk about the 1970s love story cast being a good ensemble. I already said that the pretty young things are pretty, and we like the chemistry, right, of the main CP. I actually like most of the actors in here. They're all very good looking, although I know people have trouble telling some of the guys apart. I think it's because they're all wearing beige. They're all wearing beige with the same hairstyle.
Yeah. It took a few viewings from like, okay, that's the older, martial arts brother, and that's the cousin, and that's someone's fiance, and I was like, okay, I it took a few. Oh, when you just mentioned that the male lead's dad dated her aunt, remember when he made her wontons, and she said, "Wow, it tastes just like my aunt's cooking." Was that the foreshadowing?
I think so. We haven't validated.
Yeah, I was like, how is it possible that he would make food that would remind her exactly of her aunt? So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, like I said, there's a history in the DNA of his sect of their men going after the women of her side. So they get together. So I'm like, why are they still at war, at odds with each other? They should just all be like in a giant happy marriage alliance.
Yeah, they should like those kings when the princesses have to marry like the enemy so that they don't have war with each other.
Yeah.
That's
But so I was gonna say one last thing about the casting is I actually really like also the casting for the older generation. Not just the flashbacks, but like her Sifu, like they play their parts very well. And some of them also look really good playing the parts. So I know that was like a passing comment, but I just want to mention that.
Well, the couple that was like in episode 5, you know, like the guy that was taken in prison for 10 years, like, you know, he's like blinded and everything. That guy with the woman, like they're like a very beautiful couple, but they don't have a lot of screen time. But I was like, wow, they're very good looking too. Yeah, it's a very interesting way where minor characters are still treated, I think, with, you know, like they still want them to have some heft when they're on screen. It's not like, oh, you know, just some random people that they cast. So yeah, I like it. I think it's done in a way where the whole production looks very nice, with the sets and the actors that they used.
Yeah. So I think it's a recommend from both of us to continue watching both, right? But let's do a really quick as a wrap up. Do a quick versus segment, just because they're so different, right? But yet we're watching at the same time. Like my brain has a hard time sometimes like reconciling. Like, wait, which show am I on? What am I watching again? Like, what's happening today? Because you can't really watch these like you know, in small chunks, because then you kind of lose the plot. But which is the harder to follow show in your mind? Because they both have challenges.
Definitely generation to generation. I think because there's so many things that introduce you. Like, it's not just like, oh, here's the standard storyline, and you're like, okay, let's go down that path. Like because of the editing, suddenly, like from one scene to another, and then suddenly they're introducing new characters or new setups, you know. And you always, for me, I always have to take a few seconds to like, oh, this is a different pivot. Like, there are a lot of pivots in this. So I would say this one's harder to watch.
What if you don't have the cultural context, though, for the 1970s China? Do you think there's a learning curve to understanding why because think about this, the story wouldn't happen at all if they weren't such obtuse things that were in their way of life, which all only happens because they're in 1975 China.
Yeah, it's like watching, I don't want to compare it, but it's like watching Handmaid's Tale, you know, like there's like the society that has so many constrictions and rules and social, I want to call social humiliation, but there's this tendency where you have to be upright or you will be shamed in front of all these people because you're stuck with these people. Whether, you know, it's like living in a dorm for the rest of your life with people you
oh, tragedy. Oh my God. Sorry.
Right. Isn't it? Like, you're stuck with these people. You can't, even in college, you can leave after 4 years, but like you are perpetually stuck in a dorm with neighbors you may not like, coworkers you may despise, but you have to suck it up and do it because you have no choice.
Yeah.
So
that's a great analogy.
It's like it is an eye opener. Like, between the two, the harder life might actually be the China, like the 1970s China, because at least there's freedom to leave when you're in the Wuxia world.
Well, not the harder life. The question was, which is harder to follow if you don't understand?
Oh yeah. I think following wise, I think the wuxia is easier to follow, especially if you're into fantasy and that kind of thing. I actually think because the rules are so specific to China, if you know nothing about how society was set up to govern all these people, it is very difficult to understand. Like, why do they have to do this? Why can't they do that? Like, what are the rules of what you can and cannot do? It's not as explicit.
Yeah. So I think you basically made an argument for both being hard to follow if you don't actually have the right lens or context, right, to navigate either story.
Yeah.
Which romance is more romantic? Because there is romance in both.
I don't know. I think the 1970s one is more straightforward in terms of the romance. It's like, you know, there's a crush on his end, and you know his backstory of why he likes her, and that everything he's doing is to help her. I think the romance in the wuxia one is different in that because he is kind of scheming, even though he likes her, it might be against her will, you know? Like Like
Yes.
he'll have her, but it might not be like what she wants, right? I mean, he might want to wait for her to come around, but because she also has so many loyalties to her people, her defense system is probably a lot higher than our female lead in the 1970s China. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm.
I prefer the wuxia romance because that's the type of fictional romance, fantastical romance that I'm watching, right? It's like why people watch xianxia.
Yeah.
The 1970s is just as romantic in its own charming little way, but it's not intense, right? So it's slow fondness growing. So
Yes.
it depends on which flavor you want. Which male lead do you want to have, and which female lead would you want to be? Doesn't have to be the same, right?
Well, I would want to be the wuxia female lead because she has more. She just has more.
She has more fun and less restrictions in some ways.
She has more fun. She has more talent, and talent meaning she's been trained.
Yeah.
More freedom as well. Freedom is very important, I think.
Yes, I agree with that.
I think if I had to live with a guy, Arthur's character is probably easier to live with because
he's not trying to poison people half the time.
Yeah. He's not evil, right? He's wily, like he comes up with ideas, but he's not evil. Like he's a sweet person. I think
the other guy's not evil.
Well, he's scheming, which I guess like if he's on your side, then it's great, right? Then you have like a stronger ally than I think either guy's okay. I think I think in both situations the guy just loves the girl and loves first, right? So you can't really go wrong. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. This one's a little harder.
I would pick Arthur's too. Zhou Yiran, but I appreciate Zhou Yiran and his characterization, so I definitely will watch more of his stuff. I think it's just that at least where I am, I should say, because I'm further than you. His character hasn't revealed all yet, but you get enough of that green tea-ness, you're like, oh, he's going to be a difficult one to handle, though he's sexier in some ways than Arthur's character.
Yeah.
So, which world would you choose to live in if you had to choose one?
The wuxia.
Okay.
I mean, it's more dangerous because of the random people coming to kill you with the sword or whatever. But I think it's a very beautiful world, and it's a bigger world. The China, the 1970s one is so small. It's like you're trapped. And
yes,
yeah, I definitely would pick the wuxia world.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. So we're pretty much in alignment. Anyways, that was a quick speed round on just comparing two very different shows, right? Like how to think about it. And in case you're wondering, like, should I check this out or not? Don't take our word for it. Just take our sentiments about these weird Q&As to kind of help inform your decisions. So, anything else before we wrap?
No, I'm glad you picked these two because they were not on my radar, and I had just been lamenting long form. I was in danger because of short form, but no, I think these two are pretty solid long form shows to watch.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. I actually had something similar pop up in my mind when I had started watching these two, because we had just bemoaned, like you said, the death of long form in some ways. And I was like, no, these two are very good long forms. Now, are these things that kind of make an impact on your soul and you can't forget? No, I don't think so. They're good, pleasant to watch while you're watching. I don't know if we'll be like, thinking about this a year from now. That said, they're definitely worth your time investment if you like it. Yeah. You don't feel like it's a slog when you watch. I just wish they would space out the two shows a little so I don't have to watch both at the same time and have absolutely no way to juggle. But you know what? It's a good problem to have.
They're both from Tencent, right?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes, they're both.
So, yes. Yeah. So same platform. Huh. Yeah. No, they're both really good. I'm enjoying it, and I like no complaints.
Cool. Well, then go check it out. And if you have any thoughts that you want to share with us, feel free to drop us a line.
All right.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.